What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to the Low Tier Racing YouTube channel. So we're gonna hop right into the last round of the official Manufacturer Cup Championship here at Suzuka. And historically, this is not one of my favorite tracks. I really do struggle here, so I was quite surprised to have qualified in second place. So this race, I think, again, is another case of everyone having a little bit of a different strategy. I opted to start on the medium tire, whereas I think some people opt to start on the softs. But opening lap, you know what it is already, just trying to survive and not get overtaken here in these S's. So like I mentioned, Suzuka is not my favorite track. It's very technical. These S's really do make or break the lap, and as you can see, I'm already under quite a bit of pressure here from the two Canadians behind me and the BMWs. Nice to see some fellow Canadians up at the top, but we're going to see Leclerc over here already overtake somebody within the S's, and the American quite fast in the Porsche ahead. I believe he started on the soft, so he's necessarily going to have an advantage right off the top, but he is going to opt to finish the race on the mediums and be a little bit slower, but no chance of keeping up with the American ahead. So my goal right now is just to try to keep up and maintain a gap between the cars behind, which I kind of do. So lap number 4, you can see the American up ahead in the Porsche, very far off, but behind me I do have the Porsche and the Ferrari Santiago, who's a really quick driver. I had a couple of battles with him previously in a couple of rounds already, so he's making his way up through the pack. As you can see, I go a little bit wide there, a little too quick. Very easy to go wide in these couple of sections, and the BMW and the Ferrari get full advantage. I do think the Porsche is a good car for this track. You know, it has a lot of good traction coming out of these tight hairpins on the chicane in the last corner, but the tire wear really wasn't up to par here. So lap skipping ahead near the end, so I see pretty much maintaining my position as before. But this BMW here tried to go with the inside, didn't really have it at first, but he maintained and kept going, and it pulled off the overtake within the S's. Not very easy to do. Kudos for him. So I'm gonna surrender that position. Got the superior position. Not really not much I can do anyway. So he pulls ahead into second place. Still, I'm maintaining this podium, but very much aware that Ferrari is very much behind me. And it's not gonna be easy, especially when I go wide and screw up that corner, which I do quite often. So I'm really shooting myself in the foot there, but very much under threat of this Ferrari behind. Like I said, my goal was to do at least 10 to 11 laps on the mediums and then finish the race on the softs, which I think was the right strategy, but for a similar strategy at the very least. So heading into this race, I had pretty decent standings in the actual overall cup in the GP2 league. I think I was first in my nation, first in my province, and somewhere in the top 30. So really hoping to get a podium finish at the very least, or at least finish top 5 to solidify my positioning. But we're actually going to skip right ahead to lap number 9. The BMW pulled a little bit ahead, but like I mentioned, I think the Porsche has really good traction coming out of these slow corners. As the BMW goes a little bit wide and too deep into that corner, really screws up his entry and exit. And I had a pretty good run, no problem with traction, and I get a really good run out of that corner. So and let's tuck into his slipstream here. You know, I think the slipstream wasn't the strongest in this race, a little bit on the weaker side, so didn't really reel him in like I would previously. So not able to give him a bump drop or anything, but it did allow me to keep up with him. He goes a little deep into this corner, so I'm going to try to do what he did to me and maybe possibly overtake him in the S's, but at this point, he's already pulling ahead. But he does go a little wide, so the door is opening. There are opportunities to maybe capitalize on some of his errors. He's not making too many of them, but there are little minute errors that gives me opportunity, but ultimately, within these S's, he's still able to pull ahead. And not much I can do, but I was able to pull away from the Ferrari a little bit. You know, I think the Ferrari had a little bit of a similar issue as the BMW, where it has struggles coming out of these S's and tight corners. Traction may not be the greatest on those exits, but skipping ahead to the end of lap number 8, as you can see once again, I reel him right into the corner in that chicane, almost actually going right into the back end, which I think is not really allowed. So I had to back off a little bit, really screwed up my entry point. So gotta be aware of that. But lap number 9, again, right up his butt here. A lot better position with the slipstream, so I'm able to reel him in a little bit. Opt to not really go and dive on him and give a little bit of a bump job, maybe try to pull away from everyone else behind. So to his credit, he might have gone a little deep there, a little bit of a bump job may have screwed him up a little bit. So, but once again, not really able to capitalize. So I'm gonna try to keep up with him in the S's. The BMW seemed like it was really good in these higher speed, mid-speed corners. Really put down the power well and is able to maintain that speed. So he was either really good at the S's or the car, or maybe a combination of both. But as you can see, the Ferrari did manage to come back into the equation here, not really able to fully pull away from him completely. So second, third, and fourth very much in contention battle with one another, which really helps out fifth place, but it doesn't look like he's too far out of the equation. But something to keep in mind, because all this battling that we're doing here, it kind of is opening the door for fifth place to come right out of nowhere. But as we skip ahead to the end of the lap, we can see that first place, it was indeed on the soft. So he pits at lap number 9, which gives me an idea, because he was also in the boards. It gives me an idea that, you know, these mediums, or sorry, the softs could potentially last about 8 to 9 laps. So my goal, same as always, is to just pit around lap number 11. As you can see, Santiago pitted very early on the mediums. You know, he's opting to do a 10-10 strategy with the medium and softs, which I think is a little early, but as you'll see a little bit later, it was probably the right strategy, because that Ferrari had really good tire wear. The softs didn't really wear out all that much, but me and fellow Canadian, the M6, are going to stay out for at least another lap or so. So if this is a chance to at least pull away from the gap from everyone ahead, maybe undercut some other people, stay out ahead, try to increase that gap as much as possible. So as we come ahead to lap number 10, I'm going to pull in here, try to see if I can get 9 laps out of the softs. The clerk opted to stay out even longer, so Porsche boys putting in the work. Great job as always, getting that tire change really quickly and painlessly there. So as we're coming out, we're going to fall back into 7th place, but we are going to be right ahead of Santiago, who pitted a little bit earlier than us, so he's going to be on slightly worn softs. And as you can see, everyone, including the leader, is opting to pit on lap number 11 for the medium, so they're electing to go one less lap on the softs, which I think ultimately was the right decision. But as we come out here and Leclerc is going to pull out ahead, he's got the fresh softs. I pretty much have fresh softs as well, so if anything, this is our chance to overtake him. But you'll see a little later and throughout this video, I really struggled on the softs. I don't know what it was. They wore out a lot faster than I thought they would. I had the brake bias that set all the way to the rear to try and maximize the life out of the softs, but they wore out at an incredible rate. I was really shocked. So, you know, I was able to keep up with these guys on the mediums. I felt like my pace on the medium tires was really good, but for whatever reason, my pace fell off a cliff when we went on the softs. So, when they're fresh like this, you know, I was able to keep up and put a lot of pressure on Leclerc here in the BMW, like I said. Getting a back end out there, have a little bit of difficulty coming out of these corners, but we are going to reel him in here on this hairpin, almost once again going to the back of him. We're going to be right up his trumpets here as we exit that hairpin. Porsche has absolutely no problem coming out traction-wise on that corner, so going to give him all kinds of trouble here. The Ferrari still behind us in Santiago, so something to keep in mind, but it's not that far back. So lap 14, midway through, you can see Leclerc is starting to pull away ahead, and the Ferrari here is all kinds of problems now. I actually leave the door wide open for him. I leave the inside. He takes full advantage. Goes right up the inside there. So now as we come into that hairpin, we're side by side into this. A little bit of contact there. He's actually going to tuck in behind me, get a little bit slipstream, and all that pressure really got me, because I think I brake a little bit too late into this corner, end up going really wide, leave that inside wide open for him. He takes full advantage, and quite an easy overtake for him. So fall back into 5th, which is effectively 4th place, because the leader as of right now hasn't hit it yet, so I am going to overtake him in 5th. So went from 2nd to 4th, and like I said, I am really struggling on these softs for whatever reason. the pace isn't all the greatest. He was really quick on the softs. So, but as we come out of 130R into the chicane, I think the Ferrari had a similar problem as the BMW. He goes a little too deep there, really squeezing his exit, and I have a much better run out of that corner than he does. So I'm gonna benefit from a little bit of a slipstream here. Try to reel him in as much as I can. The Ferrari is quite quick on the back straight. So as we're approaching the first corner, he's gonna go a little defensive, go on the inside. Not much of an opportunity. He cuts back a little bit. Not much of an opportunity to do anything really. He defended that really well. So he maintained and held that position really well. Nothing I can do there. So I'm gonna try and keep up with the asset. But we're actually gonna skip ahead to lap 16. Ferrari a little bit ahead. And I want you to pay attention to the gap between myself and 5th place at the start of this lap. You know, I had a healthy gap to 5th place. I wasn't really too worried at this point, but as you can see, my tire wear starting to become a little bit of an issue. I'm halfway through the softs with about 4.5 laps to go. So these tires are not lasting as long as I thought they would. I probably should have benefited and pitted later, but as you can see, the Ferrari there, his tire wear, even though he pitted earlier than me, is more or less the same, if not a little bit better. So Ferrari had a much better tire wear than I had. It's going to be a lot quicker. And like I said, I did struggle on these softs and keep up with these guys, as first and second place are long gone. So really my only contention here is 4th. But as you can see, lap number 19, that gap to 5th place is diminishing at an alarming rate. My soft tires are really worn. And then the M6 behind me has a much healthier soft. I think his are about halfway worn out, whereas mine are nearing the end of their life, screaming in pain. So it really, the last couple of laps, just hoping I can hold off to the M6 behind. Not really much hope catching the Ferrari, but as we're approaching 130R, you know, that gap was, I think, at this point about 1.5 seconds, so he definitely wasn't doing it yet. But thankfully, I was able to hold off and maintain my 4th place position here, as we're gonna end the manufacturing cup on somewhat of a strong note here. Missed podium, but able to get a good chunk of points and end the season with a bang. So I think I scored about 113 points, somewhere thereabouts, which maintained my 1st position overall in the trophy. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that race, and I'll catch you guys next time.